I've spent just under a day with Stadia, and I have some thoughts from the way it works on a Chromecast, the way it works on a Chromebook, to the way it works on my phone, and I'd like to share some of those with you. But before we get into all that, this video is brought to you by NordVPN, and they're the VPN of choice for millions of users, whether they be on a Chromebook or a Windows machine or a MacBook. It doesn't really matter. They keep your browsing safe and secure, whether you're at home or on the go. If you'd like to learn more about them and their services, head over to chromeunbox.com/NordVPN to get started today. So yeah, we had to run home because for the, I think, third time in a row, I've had stuff shipped to my house instead of remembering to ship it to the office. So we're gonna take it back to the office, get it unpacked, and hopefully play some video games. When it comes to actually using Stadia, for me, it was less about on day one, all the bells and whistles and things that we might get to do down the road. And it really became more about whether or not this was going to work. And like I said in the open, it was a bit of a mixed bag. So the first thing I did, and the way that the setup works, is I hooked in the Chromecast Ultra, set up the Stadia controller, and got all that stuff up and running. And when we talk about performance here, there's kind of two camps. There's the part of it that is just straight up latency from Stadia. So can Stadia react fast enough in a streaming environment to my button pushes? And the answer for that, is yes. I mean, it does that. It does that pretty well. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But as I got the whole thing set up, we got the Chromecast in, we got the controller, all hooked up, and it steps you through that whole process very neatly, very cleanly. I didn't have to go consult a manual or look anything up. We got set up and going. I noticed right off the bat, there was some input lag, and that's kind of the other half of this thing. So is the stuff coming from the server fast enough for you to react to? And then when you react to it, is it going to actually send that command back to the server fast enough for it to not feel like there's latency? And on the Chromecast with the controller and the Chromecast Ultra, unfortunately, every game we've tried so far, there's probably like a quarter second to a half second of lag. So you push the controller in one way, there's a slight pause, and then the thing happens on screen. And it's enough between racing games, fighting games, and first-person type shooter games that it made me not really want to play them with that setup. And that's kind of unfortunate because that's the way the box comes and that's how you set it up the first time. And so a lot of people, for right now, at least day one, day two, are probably getting that exact same experience. We've got gigabit internet here, so a gig up, gig down. So connection issues aren't the thing here. It really just is a latency problem between the way the controller hooks up to the network and the way the Chromecast Ultra responds to that. However, when we moved on to the Chromebook, which is where I really want to leverage Stadia, things got a ton better, but not perfect. So the latency problem basically just went away. I was using a keyboard and mouse at first. No issues whatsoever. The minute I move the mouse, everything moves on screen. If I push forward, back, left, right, or fire buttons or anything like that on the keypad, everything just works as soon as it's supposed to. But with this, I had a little bit of visual fidelity issues. So sometimes things would get a little bit grainy, or it would just stutter and stop for a second and then catch back up to where it was. Kind of if you had bad bandwidth and we're trying to watch a YouTube video, for instance, you see something kind of like glitch and stutter, and then it goes right back. It wasn't enough that it caused me not to be able to finish the level I was working on in Destiny, but you could definitely tell there were issues with the streaming and it understanding the stream and reacting to my movements versus playing on the Chromecast. On the Chromecast, there was a delay on everything I did, but the stream stayed constant and nice and everything looked beautiful. In the Chrome browser, so this is going to apply to you if you use Windows or Mac or a Chromebook, in the Chrome browser, it looks great half the time, 60% of the time, but there's going to be a lot of frame rate drops and sometimes where the visuals just don't quite match up. It was playable, I'll say that. I got through a whole level and it was great to play. It just wasn't exactly perfect. Then I moved on to the phone. So right now you can't pair up the controller without the Chromecast, so you have to actually plug it straight into the phone, launch the Stadia app, started a game, got everything up and going, and input lag was not there, so there was no issues whatsoever with the controller and input. Everything happened exactly as I touched the controller. And visually, it looked kind of like it did on the Chromecast, where there weren't artifacts and there weren't issues and there were no glitches or stutters in the stream itself. And so what ended up happening was overall, the way it felt to play games on Stadia felt most native when I was using my phone and the controller. I just didn't really expect that, to be honest with you, but that is the case as we stand right now. What that tells me is that the servers with Stadia are fast enough and responsive enough to do what they need to do. When they're provided with plugged in controls, so a keyboard, mouse, or the controller actually plugged in. I plugged it into the Chromebook too and didn't have any latency issues. The issue is not really with the controller. The issue isn't with the Stadia servers being able to respond quick enough when the commands get to them. The latency input that I was getting on the controller with the Chromecast has to do something with the way it connects to Wi-Fi and then it talks to the Chromecast or talks to the server or whatever. However, they've got to fix that. I believe 100% that they will be able to fix that. And the other problem with the Chrome browser, you know, we're talking about streaming massive games in real time in a web browser. So there's going to be some hiccups there, and I kind of expected that to be the case. It was a little bit better than I actually really expected it to be, but I'm hoping it gets much better to the point where we don't see artifacting, we don't have skips, we don't have jerkiness, because honestly, my favorite part of playing Stadia was playing on the Chromebook. So that's really Stadia in a box in 24 hours as I've experienced it. It's not perfect. It doesn't have all the features that we thought maybe we would get at launch, but I'm kind of okay with it. I'm not ready to dismiss Stadia as not being a thing that's going to work or just being a waste of everyone's time. I think it's going to take a little bit of time for us to get to the point where it's exactly what Google envisioned. And whether we like to admit it or not, honestly, those of us who bought in already, we're kind of paying beta testers at this point, and I'm kind of okay with that. I do wish Google would have just said that. I wish they would have said this was like an open beta and you got to pay to play or something like that, and I think our expectations might have been lowered. I really feel like they are aiming towards getting all the features ready and everything in place by the time February rolls around, and Stadia Base, which is the free-to-play version of Stadia, when it rolls out, I think they'll have a lot of this stuff ready to go. But right now, there are some, rough edges and there's some things that need to be worked on, but that's not to say it's not fun, and it's not to say it's not amazing to be playing something on a Chromecast and go pick up my Chromebook, hit that Stadia button, and hit play, and it just jumped me into the spot in the game where I was just on the TV a second ago. It feels a little bit like magic, and I think as Google fixes some of these things and they clean up some of the rough edges, we're gonna have something really, really cool on our hands. But guys, that's it for this one. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, go down and hit that subscribe button, and make sure and hit the notification bell if you'd like to be alerted when we make new videos just like this one. Till next time, we'll see you.